Hello and welcome, this is Melskunner, and we're back with some more BattleTech and my continued look at the backer beta build and the single-player skirmish mode found within. For this video, I'll be doing another well-rounded build. The premise of the well-rounded builds being that I am trying to have at least one scout, one preferably two frontline mechs, and one support mech. Unlike my gimmicky builds, where the build revolves entirely around the gimmick, and I don't really care if it's a viable build or not, the idea behind these well-rounded builds is that I'm trying to make a viable lance, and I'm also trying to make the lance as good as I possibly can. So I'm trying to get up as high as I can on the budget level. Speaking of which, we'll be raising things up a bit with this video. Previously, I was doing builds at the Clash budget level. Now I'll be doing things at the Battle budget level, so we'll be going from 15 million to 20 million for our budget. Since the most recent update, there has been balance changes, and part of those balance changes is a change in the values of mechs. Fortunately for me, I came up with all of these lance loadouts before the update, and they seemingly have been unaffected as far as whether or not I can actually afford them at this budget level since the update. So some mechs have been raised in value, but correspondingly, other mechs have been lowered in value, so those two things, fortunately for me, have balanced each other out so that I'm still having viable builds at the budget levels without having to redo them. With that being said, though, the balance changes do mean that with what practice I've had, that the effectiveness of the mechs are going to vary a little bit. As far as my opponent goes, I am going to be using the same opponent for all of these loadouts that I'll be doing at the battle budget level, with the intention of doing 3 builds, just like what I did with the Clash budget level. And I'm using the same opponent and the same map for comparison's sake. So I'll be using the same map that I did with the Clash budget level as well. That all being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the mechs that I've chosen. So starting things off with the Scout mech, we have the Commando, which, as I mentioned earlier, some mechs have been changed as far as their value. The Commando is a perfect example of that, as it has been raised up a little bit. It used to, with this variant, cost 2.5 million. Now it's up to 2.6, so only a very slight change. Otherwise, we have an SRM-6, a SRM-4, and a medium laser. Pretty good firepower for a light mech. You do lose a little bit in mobility when compared to, for example, the Locust. But that's pretty good firepower for a light mech and will allow us to do decent hit-and-run attacks as long as we can find some cover after we're done with that hit-and-run attack. The pilot I'll be using is Arc Light, which is now my new go-to scout pilot. And the reason she's my new go-to scout pilot, well, a lot of the pilots have been changed pretty significantly. A big change is gunnery skill for a lot of pilots. So, for example, my previous go-to pilot was Witness, and he had a gunnery skill of 6. This has been lowered down to 3, which is a pretty significant change. We also see with some pilots that Guts has been reduced as well, or changed. Previously, the lowest level you would have seen would be a Guts of 5. Now, we're seeing Guts levels being below that, so that's going to make using these pilots a little bit more challenging. We also have the addition of a second ability, though, which we didn't have before. So Witness only had the sensor lock. He now has evasive movement. And the reason I chose Arclight is specifically because of her additional ability. So she gains sensor lock, which makes her a good scout, allowing us to get line of sight when she doesn't physically have line of sight. But we also have Master Tactician, which gives her a additional initiative point, or allows her to act earlier than other mechs of her weight class. This is very good because it's going to benefit us quite a bit in hit and run attacks, because the main counter for a light mech is another light mech. If you use your light mech, you reserve them to the end of the turn, you go in, attack with them, and then you try and escape in the next turn, another light mech can counter you because they'll be at the same initiative level. But with Master Tactician, we'll be acting before other light mechs, so unless they have another pilot with Master Tactician, as far as I know, Arclight is the only one that has this currently, they won't really be able to counter this move. So that's why Arclight is my preferred scout. All of the scouts have pretty dismal gunnery skill, as you can see, sensor lock being what I consider an important skill. I would say Kraken is the main exception to that, but Kraken doesn't have any other supporting scout abilities. That's not necessarily bad, but for example, Mockingbird here used to be a traditional scout. Again, gunnery skill pretty bad. Witness, gunnery skill pretty bad. So I don't think that the gunnery skill, as much as it's not great, it's none of the scout pilots have really great gunnery skill, except again for that one exception of Kraken if you want to use him that way. All right, moving on, we have the first frontline mech, which is the Shadowhawk. I have used this Shadowhawk in a previous build at the Clash budget level, and this gives me another chance to try it out because I don't feel like I implemented it correctly the first time I used it. And the real challenge with the Shadowhawk is its armament. So it has an SRM-2, a medium laser, an LRM-5, and an AC-5. And for a frontline mech, really your main firepower is coming at longer range. Now the AC-5 is a little less effective. That's one of the balance changes that has happened to the game since the update. But with that being said, the strength of the Shadowhawk is more at that longer range. Once you get closer in with only a medium laser and SRM-2, it's a little bit lacking in firepower. And I really like my frontline mechs to be a threat so that my opponent feels like they almost have to attack me to remove that threat. And I just don't feel like this is enough of a threat at close range. Now, the AC-5 has a minimum range. It's not as bad as an LRM-5, but it's still something that you have to take into account. So that's the real challenge with the Shadowhawk, and I just don't feel like I used it correctly the last time. We want it to be serving as a frontline mech. We want it to be tanking damage so that our more vulnerable mechs are not taking that damage. And if we're bringing it back into the slot and putting it into the support ranges, it's not doing that role. Hopefully, Paradise will allow me to more effectively use the mech. So with Paradise, we have, and I forgot to mention, the Shadowhawk does have jump jets, but it doesn't have as many jump jets as, for example, the Griffin will be taking a look at later. So one of the abilities that Paradise has is Angel of Death, which is going to increase the jump distance. So that should help as far as that's concerned. But we also have invasive movement. So if we keep the Shadowhawk moving, we'll keep it more defensive, get that evasive charges up. And in that way, I'm hoping that we can more effectively use the firepower without getting into that support slot that I don't really want to do. Otherwise, Paradise has decent gunnery skill of 5, piloting skill of 8, so if it does get in close, we can punch rather than use our medium laser and SRM-2 if we feel like it. And our real problem is going to be guts, which has, again, been lowered for some pilots, so we're going to have to keep an eye on heat. But Shadowhawk, I don't think is that bad as far as heat is concerned, so we shouldn't be too bad off. Moving on to our next frontline mech, we have the Griffin. And this is a variant of the Griffin that removes the PPC and the LRM-10 that makes the Griffin more a support mech. This, we now have a large laser, 2 medium lasers, and the LRM-10 has been downgraded to an LRM-5. So the firepower is much more close in. Changes the role of the mech pretty significantly. And the pilot we'll be using for this mech is Ozone. Ozone has had his gunnery skill reduced. His gut skill, though, remains high, so we are going to be able to deal with heat quite well. He also has a new ability, Evasive Movement, which is interesting, though, because we also have Bulwark. So Evasive Movement benefits us for keeping moving. Bulwark benefits us for staying still. So regardless of which type of movement we do, we have some means of defending ourselves. So Ozones can be quite good for that. And defense is always a good thing to have when you have a frontline mech. So any way that we can achieve that, fantastic. It's not really up to our frontline mechs to dish out the damage. We want them to be a threat so that our opponent has to worry about them. But if we have firepower coming from, for example, our support mech, that's really what we're looking for. All right, moving on. Finally, we have our support mech, which is going to be the standard version of the Augur mech. Now, as I mentioned, AC-5s have been reduced in effectiveness, so as a result, the Augur mech has been reduced in value down to 6.1. I think previously it was at 6.3 million. So our armament for the Augur mech is going to be 2 AC-2s, 2 AC-5s, and 2 medium lasers, so very autocannon heavy firepower, and with these AC-2s, we're going to have very long range. These are direct fire weapons, though, so we won't have the benefit of indirect fire like we would for a more traditional support mech. The pilot I chose is Apex, and the reason I chose Apex, not only does she have really good gunnery skill, which is going to benefit us quite a bit in the support role, she also has 2 abilities that we can utilize. Breaching Shot, she's the only pilot right now that has Breaching Shot. That didn't used to be the case, but now it is. So if we only fire 1 weapon, we're going to ignore cover or guarded. The other ability, though, we have is multi-target, which could benefit us as well, as we do have a number of weapon systems we can use at range. So, for example, we could fire the AC-2s at one target and the AC-5s at a different target, and that is something that we can take a benefit of, or we can take advantage of. So, there we go. That is the loadout. Let's go ahead and jump into the match.
Commencing deployment. Mech warriors, prepare for combat.
Another thing I will bring up is I have recently upgraded my system. I have a new graphics card. And as a result, I have increased the graphics setting for the game. And from what I've seen in my test runs, according to my recording software, I am getting a stable above 60 frames per second. As I mentioned in my previous video where I took a look at the update, I mentioned that this game has optimization issues, and I was struggling to get 60 frames a second stably, even at the lowest graphics settings. Now that I have this new graphics card, according to my recording software, I'm achieving that. But this little frame rate ticker up here doesn't necessarily agree. So as I mentioned in that video, it seems like the frame rate counter that we have here and the frame rate counter of my recording software are not in agreement, but this time it seems like the frame rate counter is lower than my recording software says it is. With that being said, though, we are now working at the higher graphics settings, so that is one of the reasons why the frame rate is a little bit lower than I think we were seeing before. But in any case, let's go ahead and jump right into the match. So first thing first, I'm going to take my scout mech, and I'm going to put her over here. Another thing that I'm going to work on is trying to make sure that I'm pivoting my mech in a way that I can then follow up with movement, or make sure that I'm keeping my facing so that I am not flanked. Now, it seems like I didn't do that right now. The reason I put my mech facing this way, though, is so that I could move either way, depending on the requirements of what's going on. It's possible that if I'm going to do a hit and run attack, I might even come down the middle here, so that's why I face this way. All right, moving on, we have
Commander.
Apex, who I'm going to stick right here in the woods. I'm not going to be able to face her the right direction, but that's okay. Yeah, I say that it's okay. Probably I shouldn't do that. So we'll just face this direction, and then when it comes down to it, if we can fire, I'll just move over here and we'll face the proper direction. So we're going to keep our Yager mech a little bit further back, and then the idea here is to get Paradise and Ozone up front so they can deal with the damage. So we're going to put Paradise over here in the woods, and we're going to put Ozone on the other side. Right about there. Okay, so that's going to be our first turn. This is a fairly small map, so it's possible we'll get contact this turn. It depends on the movement of my opponent. Now, the opponent I've chosen specifically because I think that they are a challenging opponent to face off against. The Orion mech is going to be a opponent that will be difficult to handle. Now, as we see here, I do have the advantage of using Arc Light and having that higher initiative. I'm going to go ahead and reserve at this point, as holding her to the end is going to be advantaging to us. So there's their light mech, which I believe is a commando. It looks like we've been fired upon. I don't know if that connected. I don't think it did, but it did remove some of our evasion charges. So they've established a line of sight on me. I'm going to continue to reserve, though.
Reserving action.
When we do move,
We got more company.
that actually might have been the wrong call, now that I think about it. And the reason it was the wrong call in my mind is we wanted to move. We wanted to establish line of sight to, for example, the commando, and then we wanted to be able to get our Griffin guarded, which I didn't pull off. We're probably going to take more damage here, so that is a little bit of a failure on my end because they're going to be burning through these suppression charges. We want to reduce the damage. All right, so in any case, let's go ahead and do that move now. I'm going to go ahead and move a little bit this direction and face this way because, again,
I can.
we do a hit and run attack. It's going to be down the middle here, more than likely. Let's go ahead and use our sensor lock and lock up the commando here. That way our other mechs can attack. But as I said, I should have done that. Okay, we did luck out there because our Griffin did not get attacked. So we're now going to move Ozone so that if their heavy mech goes, they will, if they attack the Griffin, now have to deal with guarded. We're going to stay at this range, though. And I guess we might as well fire everything. We're going to heat up a little bit, but Ozone can deal with the heat because of that high guts. So let's go ahead and fire off everything we've got. This is not that bad of a chance to hit.
All weapons, go.
Oh, wow. We burned through the armor of that arm already. I'd have to check to see what is in that arm. So there's a medium laser. So if we were able to hit that, we'd knock out some of the firepower of this mech. I think the SRM-6 is in a torso somewhere. There it is, in the center torso. Okay. Alright, so with Paradise, because we don't have guarded, we're much better off keeping moving with the Shadowhawk. And the more we move, the better, with the way that evasion works now. So we're going to want to really move here. I do want to stick in cover if I can, though, so that we have the best defense we can. I have to keep in mind, moving like this, though, I'm going to put my LRMs at not the best range to engage. And we might even be better off moving a little bit more. Let's see what we can get as far as charges. So this here would be, looks like 4 charges, or we can get 3 and be in. I think we're better off in the woods, though. Alternatively, I can move here, and that would probably put us... Yeah, okay, that's better from a range perspective. We still have the same number of charges. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot. We don't want the commando to get our back, so we're going to try and avoid that.
Consider it done.
Now, unfortunately, the AI has more or less suicided this light mech. If we can kill it this turn, then great for us. I'm going to go ahead and fire everything here. I think it's a good idea to do so because we might be able to take this commando out this turn. And as we can see, heat buildup is not that bad on this mech, even firing all weapons. Shadowhawk is fairly cool mech. Okay, we landed with the AC-5, and it looks like we managed to take out the right torso and the right arm, destroying that medium laser. Okay, we're having some firepower come in on our Shadowhawk, but we managed to get the autocannon to miss there because we kept our evasion up. Okay.
Awaiting orders.
Now all we've got is the... Okay, we don't have line of sight, but we are going to have to move here, which I knew, honestly. And we really don't have any defenses to worry about, so we might as well just attack with what we can. So we've got AC-2s and AC-5s all being able to attack here, with the AC-2s having the better chance to hit because they are longer range weapons. So let's go ahead and fire those off. Looks like we managed to land with all of them and killed that commando. So there goes the enemy's line of sight, and putting us at a very advantaged position. So we're going to go ahead and reserve. This is going to make our opponent have to come in to fight us. We're going to reserve again. Now we are going to want to move our Shadowhawk out of there if we can. And again, I may have messed up my move here. So I think what we want to do now with Arc Light is we want to move in a way that we can get our sensor lock on somebody. So moving here would work, but the downside is that we might be seen and hit. So I'm going to move here, and it looks like we're going to be sensor locking up this mech that's already moved. So that's what we're going to try and go for. I am going to face my opponent to a certain extent. Probably face like that. If they establish a line of sight, this mech might be able to hit the commando, which would be bad. Go ahead and sensor lock up this mech, as it's the only one we can reach with our sensor range. And what do we have there? We have a Centurion. Okay. So as I mentioned, we're going to want to move our Shadowhawk here.
You have orders?
And we already know that 3 charges is more than likely as much as we're going to get. Out of curiosity, are we better served by reversing? So I can only build up 2 charges, but I at least get into the cover that I'm looking for. Or we can move. Oh, that's not a bad spot right there. Line of sight's not going to be as good. Now, of course, I can also jump if I want to. And what would that look like? We'd be able to build up a lot more evasion charges. We wouldn't be able to get any better line of sight doing this. But I don't think that's a bad move. The only real problem with that move is that we don't really have good support for our Shadowhawk after we make the move. And I think that's a hunchback there. I could also jump up on top of the hill, but then we wouldn't have any cover. So I think this is the best move, and honestly, this gives me the most evasion charges, so we'll go ahead, move like that.
Firing jump jet.
Our Shadowhawk may be in trouble next turn, but I think we'll be okay. And we'll go ahead and open up here. And I don't see a reason why not to fire everything here. Although heat is a little bit of a concern. We've already seen if we don't jump, our Shadowhawk is pretty good as far as heat goes. So we'll go ahead and... okay, we'll hold off the SRM2 because it doesn't have a great chance to hit anyway.
Good to go.
Unfortunately, we missed with the AC5, which is important elements of our damage. So very minimal damage there, unfortunately. Okay, now it's Ozone's turn.
What are your orders, Skipper?
And we can just stay put if we want. And our chances to hit here aren't bad. The Centurion does have guarded, so we're not going to do that much damage, but what the heck, we'll fire.
I'm on.
This will allow us to cool off a little bit, I think. Okay, unfortunately, we missed with our big damage yet again. But we do hit a little bit with the LRM5, so we're doing something. Okay, here comes their heavy mech. Okay, missed with the AC-10. I think it's an AC-10 from an Orion. We did take a little bit of damage there, though, from the LRM.
Standing by.
Okay, it looks like we have ourselves good vision. I might even move a little bit here to get a little bit closer.
Moving to position.
And it looks like their mechs are going over this way anyway, so we want to counter that move. Okay, 75% chance for everything here. We could remove the guard by only firing one weapon. If we do that, though... I don't like that move.
Target locked.
We can do more overall damage firing that way. Okay. So in this case, it might be a good idea to move with Arclight now, but I'm actually going to reserve her. And the reason I'm doing that is because they might give me line of sight without me using sensor lock, and then if that's the case, we're going to... Okay, I'm not sure what that move was about. So we're just going to wait here, see what the opponent does. We're hoping that at least one mech comes in, so we've got an established line of sight. Luckily, they missed with that big damage there. So now we're going to try and counter that attack that just happened to us, and moving Paradise is going to be the important one. Evasion charges have been burned away,
Reporting.
so we want to reestablish them if we can. We also wanted to be able to keep seeing our opponent, though, so that is a consideration. Looks like we'll have a hard time pulling that off and keeping the range long, so looks like we're going to have to get a little up close and personal, which I'm not sure I'm a big fan of, but I just don't have the jump range to keep line of sight and stay in cover. So that's what we're going to do. So right there, I think is right there will work. I think here, because it's a little bit harder for our opponent to flank us. If we put our back like that. We are, of course, having to concern ourselves a little bit with heat, but at this point, we're going to be turning off the LRM5, because it's not going to be that effective at this range. But our AC5 and medium laser and the SRM2 can hit at this range. We're going to go ahead and fire.
He's going down.
Okay, managed to hit with all those weapons. And now is the time to go after the Hunchback, because it is out in the open, has no cover. All we had to do is burn through one evasion charge. Alright, here comes their heavy mech. More than likely going to attack our Shadowhawk. We're hoping that a lot of this stuff misses. Looks like some of it did. Okay, now Ozone.
Yup.
We'll have to move if we want to establish line of sight. So let's go ahead and come in and get a little closer. So this is going to take our LRM-5 out of the equation.
Affirmative, Commander.
We'll turn that off and fire away. This is the benefit of having evasion on Ozone, is it doesn't force you to stay put if you don't want to. Okay, now that we've done that, we can't hit and run attack with arc light, but we'll save that for last.
Yes, Commander.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and fire away here. Unless we can establish better line of sight. Looks like that's a better line of sight, so we're going to take it. Might be a little further away, so our chance to hit might be similar, but I'd rather have the direct line of sight than the more obscured one. Okay, 95% chance to hit here and 75%. Let's go ahead and fire. Looks like we hit with all of it. Good. And now let's do our hit and run attack here. So we're going to move in, try and establish a line of sight. The real challenge is going to be making sure that we break line of sight next turn, which might be tough, although we can always sprint to achieve that. This looks like a good spot. The Hunchback will be able to tank a lot of this damage, but focusing fire like this should be pretty effective. And we've knocked him unsteady and almost off his feet. Okay, so we do want to disengage at this point, so we're going to go ahead and sprint to do that, get as much disengagement as we can. We'll face this direction, so if the opponent does pop around this side, we at least are facing the correct direction. And because we sprinted, we're going to be building up decent evasion as well. Okay, their Griffin's going to be moving now. Oh, I'm sorry, Centurion. Fortunately, missed there. So they've been focusing on my Shadowhawk predominantly. We're probably going to, again, continue to want to move this mech first so that their Hunchback doesn't unload on me. So let's go ahead and jump away. I'm going to jump almost as far as I possibly can and still establish line of sight. So that's going to be there. It's going to be broken line of sight, but it's still going to be line of sight. They're going to jump there. He's going to start being a concern at this point. But it's important that we get the damage in now. As much as I could turn off a medium laser, I think we want to put down this Hunchback if we can. So let's go ahead and fire up. We'll take the heat damage. Okay, we got a little bit of internal, and we did hit the AC-20, which means AC-20 is going to have a hard time hitting. And also, the Hunchback got knocked down, which means that it's been lowered in initiative, which now means that we can unload on it and get called shots. So that was actually extremely good that we did that. Okay, now Ozone can stay put if we want and get the guarded, which I don't see a reason why not. Especially if we still have direct line of sight. We're going to try and knock out the AC-20 at this stage. We could try go for the kill on the center torso, and that actually may work, but I'd rather take out the main threat that this mech can offer on us, which is the AC-20. Two medium lasers and a small laser are not that bad. It might resort to attacking us by punching us, which I wouldn't like, but here we go.
Roger that, Commander.
Okay, we didn't get it, unfortunately, but we tried. Now the Hunchback's going to be able to get up. This is where I would have preferred to have hit with that AC-20. Does look like the Hunchback's going to go after nobody. All right. I guess that works.
Aye, aye.
Now with our attack. Oh, we don't have a line of sight just yet. So we're going to need to move to establish it. Right about there.
Move order confirmed.
Now again, we have the thing, do we want to fire one weapon and get through the guard, or do we want to fire multiple weapons and overall do more damage? And I think, honestly, the right call here is to do more damage and also have a higher chance of hitting the critical right torso here. So let's go ahead and fire. And if we take out the right torso, we'll also take off the right arm, which is heavily damaged anyway, but that will remove one of the medium lasers. So drastically removing the Hunchback's firepower.
Affirmative.
Okay, we did manage to get a critical hit on a medium laser. Okay, that's pretty good that missed. Especially as we were standing still. Okay, it's good now that we're spreading out a little bit of damage. We're going to try and use Arc Light in a hit and run attack again, but because we're going to be doing that, we're going to need to reserve her for the meantime and wait until the enemy mechs have all gone. She's going to be the last one to act. Okay, some hits there.
How might I help?
All right, at this stage, we're going to want to continue to bring up our evasion charges as much as we can. At this point, it might even be a good call to jump into the water, although heat might be a little on the high side if we do that. I may just have to take a less defensive position at this point and have less evasion charges. Which I'm not sure it's giving me any at this stage. It looks like I'm going to have to come out of the woods to get them. So this is the most that I can pull off right here is 3. We won't be able to attack the Hunchback, though, so I don't know if I like that. As a matter of fact, I think the Shadowhawk shouldn't move now. Instead, we're going to move with Ozone, because we have good evasion charges now. Question is, do we want to keep Ozone where he is? We could back off and get some evasion charges and try and get a more defended location. But you know what? Let's just stick with it. Let's attack this Hunchback and hope to blow off that right torso. Fire away.
Affirmative, Commander.
Okay, we got the arm. Fortunately not... We did get the AC-20, though.
You like that?
There we go. It was a little slow on that, but... Okay. That's odd. Did the opponent not go? Interesting. Okay.
Reporting.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get in here and try and do as much damage as we can. Now, the thing that I think I have to concern myself with, though, is that the Hunchback is more than likely just going to punch me, which is, I think, going to remove my evasion anyway. Did we just guard up this turn? I could also death from above him. I mean, I like the idea of continuing to pour damage in here, but honestly, I think we just need to hold off, let ourselves cool down. Yeah, they didn't go. I don't think they did. Oh, this mech did. Maybe he just guarded up again. All right.
What do you need?
We still want to reserve, though. So, let's do that. Okay, they hit me. I think it's starting to get to the point where we're going to want to disengage with the Griffin. Okay.
Standing by.
Let's go ahead and use Apex here to attack the Hunchback, try and finish it off.
Roger that.
We missed with some of that. Okay, now Arc Light.
Yeah.
Looks like Arc Light is only going to be able to pull off an attack on the Centurion, which is okay. I'll take it. We could go up on top of the hill and get an attack this way. And honestly, that's probably not a bad move.
Copy that.
Yeah, the Centurion here is a little hot. That's important to realize here. All right, let's just go ahead and open up here. We might get a kill if we're lucky. It blew off the other arm. So all this mech has now is a small laser. So you can pretty much be guaranteed that if it's going to do anything against me, it's going to be punching. So let's go ahead and just back down off the hill.
Understood.
And I guess we can sensor lock at this point. Let's go ahead and sensor lock the Centurion. Okay, used focus, which is going to remove any guard that I have. So Griffin's going to take heavy damage now.
I'm catching some serious shit here, Commander.
Alright, as I said, probably a good call to disengage now. So I'm going to jump. Do want to keep attacking the Hunchback, but it looks like I'm having a hard time establishing line of sight because of this rock. So we're just going to disengage. I guess I'll move as far as I can. And we'll use the LRM-5 and the large laser if it's in range, which I don't think it is. While we kind of regroup here. Turn that back on. Yeah, it looks like we can fire both, so let's go ahead.
Engaging target.
Here comes the Hunchback. And part of the reason I backed off like that is to remove the possibility of a punch from the Hunchback. I say punch, it has no arms left, so an attack.
You have orders?
Okay, let's just reverse here. I do want to be able to hit that mech, the Hunchback, but if I can't pull it off, I can't pull it off. I was kind of hoping I could reverse into the woods. We can move into the woods, but problem is, am I going to be able to... that looks like it will work. So we'll do that. Use this opportunity to cool off still. So we're going to be switching back on the LRM-5, and the AC-5 is going to shoot as well.
Locking on target.
Okay.
Commander?
Finally, we have Apex. He's going to fire everything here. All right, good. Okay, so we're going to reserve with Arc Light because we can do another hit and run attack. Reserve again.
Holding for the right opportunity.
All right, Centurion might be able to move in here and get line of sight. Fortunately, we had a miss there. All right, so we already took some damage. Let's continue to move Paradise here. Actually, no, we're going to need to establish line of sight first, so... I guess we reserve here. This is dangerous because the Hunchback might be able to get in and punch us, but... doesn't look like it. Just comes in and keeps hitting us with that small laser, which, if it's going to keep doing that, that's fine. Alright, let's go ahead and reserve one more time, perhaps. I guess Paradise can move at this point. Okay, so let's now reverse. My goal was to keep in the woods and get evasion charges, but the problem is we have to move far enough to get the evasion charges. See if it will let me do with a... proper move here. Alright, yeah, I'm just going to reverse here because I don't think we're going to get what I'm looking for. Ugh. No, I'm not going to get what I'm looking for regardless of how I move. Do we jump backwards? As long as I can establish line of sight on the Hunchback, that's all I care about. And we can get some good evasion going. All right, that might be at the ideal range to hit it with the AC-5 and the LRM as well. That's what we're going to do. We're going to turn off the medium laser and the SRM-2 just for heat's sake.
Target confirmed.
And we might be able to take the Hunchback out with arc light. And by continuing to move backwards, we're removing the heavy mech from the equation, more or less. Okay, so I'm just going to move in here. Goal being to try and take out the Hunchback. As a matter of fact, let's not move in so close, because we don't want the Centurion to come in and be able to finish us off. So we're going to lose out a little bit on evasion, just on the hopes that we get a kill here. We've got good firepower, so I'm hoping we'll be able to pull it off. There's not a whole lot left on the enemy mech. There we go. We also managed to kill the head as well, so super dead now. It's quite possible we killed the pilot as well. Alright, so in this case, we're going to want to establish a line of sight to the Orion. We could just stay where we are and attack the... You know what, I think I am going to do that. Let's just attack the Centurion because it's out in the open. And we still want to cool off here, so... Do we turn off the large laser to allow us to do that? I think so.
Reporting.
And also, by not moving, we're going to be guarded, so if that Orion ever does get close enough to us.
Aye, aye.
Okay, and Apex is going to have to move a little bit to establish that line of sight. We might be out of range, though, if I do that. Let's do this instead. I'm not really worried because the Orion, I don't think will be able to pull off line of sight on us. Okay, let's go ahead and fire everything.
Target confirmed.
If we land good hits here, we may kill this mech. Not quite. Okay, well, I'm not going to risk trying to kill the mech, even though we're very close to the ability to use the Fury. I'm not going to risk an attack on the Centurion with our commando. So instead, I'm going to move over this way. We can sensor lock up if we lose line of sight, which I think we're going to. Let's sensor lock up the medium mech, as I feel that that is the more important mech to get rid of at this point. Okay, fortunately some of that missed.
There's a hole in my armor.
All right, let's see if we can finish this guy off. So I'm just going to move into the woods here. Give myself the best defense I possibly can. Looks like that's going to be decent. We won't be able to use the AC-5. I'm sorry, the LRM-5, but
Coordinates confirmed.
AC-5, the medium laser and the SRM-2 should be still okay at this range. And we'll fire away here. Fortunately, our shots spread out a little bit too much there. So I think that Centurion's going to live another day. All right, at this point, we're going to go ahead and just reserve. We want the Orion to come to us.
Affirmative.
There it is. Okay, fortunately, I missed with some of its firepower. We are taking heavy hits here, though. So I think we are going to want to back off. Jump away. Okay, I cannot establish a line of sight on the Orion, so we're not going to. Instead, we're going to jump over this way.
Copy that.
And we'll get a lot of evasion charges. Now, my Yager mech is in a dangerous position right now with where I've placed it. We'll fire the large laser here. There's a good chance we may get a kill. Yeah, we keep hitting in the wrong places, though. Okay, so the question is, can we get into a position... No, it doesn't look like it. So we're just going to sprint here. And I'm going to try and sprint in a position that gets us away from this Orion so that it can't attack me.
Go into full
So we'll go ahead and sprint up this way. We weren't going to be able to get into a position to attack the Centurion anyway. And we don't have line of sight on the Orion, so... Okay, now for our hit and run attack. I have faith we'll pull this off, so I'm going to go ahead and risk it with our light mech. So I'm going to move in. It looks like 3 charges is as good as we're going to get anyway. We're going to use focus to try and get the high chance hits here. And I'm hoping we get some center torso hits, because if we do, then
Show me your war face.
that'll be all she wrote for the Centurion.
Aye, aye. Engaging target.
Okay, there we go. We got it.
Hostile removed.
So we have 1 enemy mech. Our frontline mechs are fatiguing at this point.
Delay sounds wise.
I don't know if the Orion can get into a position to see me. It doesn't look like it. Can I get into a position to see it? Now let's try with Paradise here. So we're going to jump. Now I can do hit and run attacks with my medium mechs now as well. So I'm going to go ahead and jump up on top of this hill, because we will have higher initiative than the enemy. At this point, because of heat concerns, I am going to turn off the medium laser and just use the SRM-2 and the AC-5. All right, now that we have the line of sight established, that means that we can... I don't have the arc, so I'm going to have to move. And I want to keep moving here as much as I possibly can. So let's move here. That gives us at least... this will give us 3 charges and we'll be able to face. So let's do that. And we'll fire what we've got. I may turn off the large laser just for heat's sake. Okay, and let's see if we can get Apex in a proper position.
Awaiting orders.
Looks like we can if we move only in this space. That's kind of close to the Orion, so I'm a little bit concerned about that, as our Yager mech may be threatened, but it's been untouched at this point, so I don't know how concerned I am about it. Alright. Trading with this Orion is going to be difficult, though. Okay, we're going to reserve Arc Light at this point, as she's not in a spot where we really need to use her just yet. We can get ballsy with Paradise here, but the concern is that we don't have the heat to deal with this. So I think for now, we're just going to move and put ourselves in the woods over here so that we're nice and well defended. Can we achieve that with a reverse move? No. Okay, yeah, let's just do a normal move here, put ourselves in the woods, and then we'll brace so that we're nice and well defended. This will give us a chance to cool off, and it will also give us a chance to tank damage if it comes to that. Okay, now Ozone. Well, we don't have line of sight yet, so I think we have to reserve here. Possible the Orion will be able to move and establish line of sight. Nope. Didn't manage to pull that off. So now Arc Light can come in, establish that line of sight for us, get a nice hit and run attack going.
Roger.
And because the Orion, well, the Orion probably is going to have guard status again, but that's okay. We'll just go ahead and fire away here. And I think at this point, we're in a really good position.
Orders.
The question is, can we keep our Griffin up and running? We do definitely want to attack with it. I think getting as many evasion charges as I possibly can is going to be in my best interest. It looks like we'll be able to put it at the proper range bracket for our LRM-5, so we'll do that. And
Location confirmed.
I'm just a little bit concerned with the torso section having been stripped of armor at this point. So, heat, we might as well heat ourselves up as much as we can.
All weapons, go.
Okay.
Yes, Commander.
Apex may be able to get in behind, but let's just continue to move a little bit further away. We're not going to have great line of sight regardless of how I move. So it looks like this is about as far away as I can get.
On my way.
Keeping the Orion away from my more vulnerable support mech. Now, if we can get in behind the Orion, that would be very good. At this point, Arclight could get in behind, possibly. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact I can get in behind. Not probably an intelligent move because I won't be able to finish the mech off. So instead, we're going to move into a position that's going to put us in cover. And then I'm going to go ahead and sensor lock up the Orion just so that we know that we're going to have line of sight because we just lost it now. And the battle is going to be a lot about establishing and keeping this line of sight. The Orion hasn't been able to do a lot against us so far because it hasn't had line of sight of me. Okay. In theory, we actually want the Shadowhawk to be attacked here, so I might make it a juicy target by stepping out and trading. Now, the amount of damage that the enemy can sling at us is still going to be challenging. We'll go ahead and fire everything here. Alright, unfortunately, we missed a bit there. Okay, and Ozone can stay put and get guard up to reduce the damage. So we'll go ahead and fire everything here.
Here we go.
Okay. Now the Orion may not have vision on me, so it's going to have to move here. And as a result, it's not going to have guard. And as I had hoped, it went after the Shadowhawk because the Shadowhawk was an easier target to hit and do damage to.
Under heavy fire.
Okay, now Apex should have a really good shot here. But we're going to have to move to get it. Alright, so again, I'm going to continue to move back here.
On the move.
So we keep our AC2s at an optimum range. We are burning through our AC2 ammo, though. We can fire everything in this position. I see no reason why not to.
Giving them everything I've got.
Okay, we have eaten through some of the armor of the Orion. And at this point, we've got rear attack potential, so we're in a very good position. Arclight is going to reserve. There is a possibility that the Orion will be able to get in behind my commando and attack. We're going to try and make sure to do as much damage as we possibly can here, though, to try and limit that. So I'm going to go with
Yes, Commander.
Ozone first, because Ozone will be able to jump here and establish good rear attack.
10-4.
So that's what we're going to do. And we jumped a very long distance as well. Now, attacking here, we're going to definitely have to turn off some weapon systems. I might turn off the large laser. I'm not exactly sure. Because if we don't, we're not going to shut down, actually. So this might be worth it. Let's go ahead and fire.
Engaging target.
And our enemy is also very hot. So, there we go. Managed to get a crit on the LRM-15.
Keep an eye on my heat, Commander.
Alright, I don't think Paradise is going to be able to do the same thing. No, we don't have quite the jump distance, even with... Now, we could do a death from above attack if we really want. I don't think that's in our best interest. Let's get moving here. So what I want is just any amount of evasion charges if we can pull it off. I might even be willing to go out in the open just to get those evasion charges. Alternatively, we can jump and get even more evasion charges. Yeah, let's go for that.
Roger.
Okay, let's go ahead and open up here. We're going to turn off the LRM-5 because that's not going to hit likely. Okay, a little bit more damage. Now it's going to be the Orion counterattack. We're going to reserve our scout mech here.
Right opportunity.
Okay, going after the Shadowhawk. That's actually good for us. Shadowhawk still has fresh armor and had a lot of evasion charges, so some of that stuff missed.
What do you need?
Okay, Apex.
Commander?
She's going to stay where she is and attack. Did get guard, so this is going to be a little bit less effective from the attack damage standpoint. We have a very high chance, though, of taking this mech out now. We've gotten some good rear damage on it, and Arc Light is going to be able to attack this thing more than once in the rear. So I'm going to go all out here, trying to do as much damage as I possibly can in the next couple turns.
Acknowledged.
Okay, we can't be missing damage, but alright. Now Arc Light is going to go again. We do have a focus. Might be good, but I think we probably want to use that on one of our mechs that are attacking from the front rather than one of the mechs that are attacking from the rear. We're going to come in here and get another rear attack. We're going to follow that up with a rear attack from Ozone.
Look at that. Someone wants to get dead. Eat this.
Okay. Good damage there.
Got past the armor.
All right.
Yep.
Now the question is, do we want to use the focus fire on the Orion with Ozone? Because really, honestly, Apex is probably going to be able to do the most damage if the Orion has guard when Apex moves. So I think we shouldn't. I think we should stay still. We're going to attack. I'm going to go ahead and take a shutdown here. So I'm also going to fire off my LRM-5. Going to do as much damage as we possibly can here. Okay, we didn't take him out, unfortunately, so that was a risk that didn't necessarily pay off. Okay, so Paradise has to come in and do a lot of damage here. So, again, we're going to continue to keep moving so we get those evasion charges up. I am risking getting punched here by doing this move.
Will be done.
We are going to focus on the enemy. Actually, nope, I have to hit the button first. And I'm hoping that we'll do heavy damage here. We are going to fire the LRM-5 just so we have a little bit extra damage. Okay, that's good damage. Unfortunately, not enough to take out our opponent. So our opponent is going to be able to react. Looks like it's going to run away. Holy crap.
Internal structure damaged.
That was a lot of damage there. Went after the shutdown mech. I guess that makes sense.
Aye, aye.
Okay, well, we've got a good shot here on this mech, and it no longer has cover, so we did take quite a bit of a risk there trying to take the sucker out, and unfortunately, we didn't get lucky with the rear attack, as lucky as I would have liked. But hey, we got through it, and we took a little bit of extra damage on the Griffin than I would have liked to have avoided. But sometimes I think it's worth taking those risks, especially at the end there. But we could have lost our Griffin. As a matter of fact, I think he tried to do a call shot on our head and decapitate us, so that wouldn't have been good for sure. Well, in any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.